In the spring of 1995, while we were finishing up the book, Toxic Sludge is Good for You, I got a call from a very pleasant woman by the name of Nancy Blatt, who said she was with the Water Environment Federation. The Water Environment Federation is the sewage sludge industry. It's this massive Washington, D.C. based nationwide lobby that represents all the municipal sewage sludge plants. And Nancy Blatt was calling to say that she had heard we had a book coming out in the fall of '95 with this title, Toxic Sludge is Good for You, and that she was quite concerned by the title because, in fact, they don't really consider it toxic anymore, and they don't like to call it sludge. It's now called biosolids, a natural organic fertilizer. And she was very worried that if we maintained the title of our book, it might interfere with their educational campaign funded by the Environmental Protection Agency that was going to convince farmers across the United States to take sewage sludge and spread it on farmland. They actually sponsored a contest to come up with this Orwellian name, biosolids. They invented the name, and then they went about moving the name into the dictionary and ensuring that the dictionary definition of the name would not include the word sludge. No matter how cynical you think you are about public relations and what it's involved with and which issues it's working on, you really can't keep up with the public relations industry. There really is a campaign telling us that toxic sludge is good for us.
Right now, one can't leave one's house. I should say one can't leave one's bed without encountering public relations. So this sort of notion of how it affects everyday life is that everyday life itself has become permeated with messages which are designed to influence thought and behavior.
The public relations industry is a multi-billion-dollar business owned by the advertising industry, and its job is to manipulate public opinion, news information, and public policy on behalf of its clients. No wealthy individual, corporation, or politician makes a move without PR consultants.
It's about using every kind of technology, using every media outlet, using every outlet, period, available in the society to convince people that what you want them to believe is good for them.
Wars have been sold to us for almost a century by this government through the very canny use of PR techniques. It starts, of course, with World War I. First time that propaganda had been used so extensively on the state level, and it was to persuade a resistant population of the absolute need for that conflict with the Germans.
Part of what happens in the cauldron of the First World War is that increasingly people involved in publicity start learning about and talking about and thinking about the kind of irrational motivations within the public mind.
In 1990, Iraq, under the leadership of Saddam Hussein, invaded the neighboring oil-rich country of Kuwait. Immediately, the United States government began preparing for war with Iraq to protect its strategic interests in the region. However, the enthusiasm for war was not shared by most Americans, who, with the images of the Vietnam War still lingering in their minds, were not willing to risk the loss of life in what seemed to be another campaign in a distant land. As in the First World War, public relations stepped in to create the necessary imagery to convince reluctant Americans to abandon their hesitation.
The Gulf War was a PR triumph of the first order, breathtaking, as successful in its way as World War I had been. They used every means at their disposal, as one must in a propaganda drive. They used all the available media, they used all the tricks in the book, and even added a few new ones.
If we're going to talk about changing sort of and challenging the propaganda apparatus, the only way to do it is for the communications system and for the tools of public expression to become things that are more and more in the hands of ordinary people. I mean, unless we begin to have a more democratic creation of a media environment, the current system is not going to change. But I think the possibility is there, and the tools are within reach.